I just wanted to go over a couple of things from last week. I have a list of about 5 items that I want to follow up on. So up to this point, here are some things that you should have completed. And I know you guys had a class on Saturday and maybe you talked about some of this. But the first thing is that you definitely should all have set up your Common App account. So you should have created an account and saved your passwords, and that would be the bare minimum. But then additionally, you should have added your colleges to the Common App and reviewed the deadlines for applications and looked at the other requirements for each of your colleges. And then some of you may have found as you were trying to add your colleges to the Common App that one or more of your colleges is not on the Common App. So if you found that out, then maybe this next week or the end of this week, you can start looking at those applications as well, because Marjan and I will be happy to answer any questions you have about the applications that are not part of the Common App. So if you're applying to a college that has its own application and you have a question about that, please, we can address that during our individual meetings. So don't be worried about that. We're still here to help you with those as well.
Sure, and same thing goes if it's coalition.
Oh, right, yes, good. Okay, and then the third thing is you should have hopefully watched the videos. If you were on the class last week, you may not have needed to watch the videos to finish the work that was due. But again, those videos are still there. So if you need to refer back to those for any help with anything we covered last week, please go ahead and watch those. And then really super important, reply to Miss Laura with your availability for scheduling, because we are going to start scheduling meetings for tomorrow. So I know a lot of you have given some availability, and if you were one of the people who gave a lot of options, I haven't replied to you because I'm trying to see where I can fit in the people who don't have as many options first. And then since you had a lot of options, I'll fill you in later. So don't worry if we haven't been in contact with you, we will get to you and get everything scheduled. But thanks to everybody who's replied so far, but please give us some options and we can get those going. Marjan, did you want to say something there?
I'm trying not to sneeze, sorry.
Okay, replied with your schedule. Okay, and then the final thing before we get started today is when we meet with you one-on-one this week, it will be the way we can take the most advantage of our 30 minutes together is if you will have the Common App open on your laptop and be in your account and you can share your screen with us. And that way, as we're talking, we can see what you've put in and give you feedback at that time. So that's going to help us kind of stay on top of everything rather than us going, even when you add us as advisors, we will be able to go in and look. But the best way for us to help you is to have it open while we're talking and we can say, oh, wait, you missed this question or think about this or whatever. So we can give you some real-time feedback. And so again,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that sort of tag teaming with the availability thing. So you want to make sure that you're offering times that you're available when you can be in front of your computer and not just logging in on your phone, because it's going to be a lot harder to navigate and you can't share your screen as effectively, or maybe not at all, if you're on a phone. So please just treat this like it's a class time. It's only 30 minutes, and it might not even take that long depending on where you are each week, what you have to do. But we just need a 30-minute chunk of time where you can show us your screen and we can walk you through the process. If you can't show your screen for some reason, we can still work on wherever you are, but that's the best case.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely we're gonna shoot for these 30-minute sessions to be working sessions. So we definitely will leave time for answering questions that you might have too, but we want to kind of knock things out as we go. So make sure that you're able, if you need to practice that ahead of time, make sure you're able to open the Common App on your computer and share your screen with us. And if anybody needs any help with that, email one of us and we'll help you work on that. Okay, I think that's all I had. Marjan, did you have anything else, or Laura, before we get started?
No, the only thing I was going to say is that none of you have received a time. Because we've been waiting for updates on time availability. You're going to be looking for emails today and maybe even tomorrow, because the way it's going to work is we're going to start with meetings tomorrow, and then we'll go tomorrow, Friday, and then we'll continue into next week. And then we'll have another group meeting on Wednesday, and then that'll be another new week. So that's how this will proceed. So be on the lookout. If you get an invitation, please respond that you can be there, so we know that we don't just go to the link and sit waiting for somebody to not show up. So if it doesn't work for you, just be in touch as soon as possible to let us know another time that you could meet. That's it.
Okay, does anybody have any questions before we get started? I'm going to pause for just a minute and see if there are any questions at all. Okay, and remember, you can always be in the chat box as well. Okay, so let's get started. This week, we're going to talk about the profile and family sections of the Common App. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys now. Give me a sec. I feel like my screen looks different every time I log in. Sorry guys, I don't see my sharing button.
It's at the bottom. It says present now. Like if you put your cursor down.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It zooms different. So every time it's a little bit different.
All right.
Tracy, you still there?
Looks like it's thinking about it.
Yeah. Some technical difficulties. Has anybody, while we're waiting for Tracy to get going, has anybody started their profile?
Yeah, I have. I finished up to the family portion of the profile.
Okay, great. Well, we'll be covering that today too.
Yeah, Thomas and I got started on that. He was, I think, one of the first ones to get started on it right after August 1st. Yeah, and Athena's done a lot too, finished. I'm glad that y'all still come to these though, even though it's finished, because you're going to learn stuff that you're like, oh no, I need to go back and change that.
Laura, do you have to let her back in? Do you have to let people in as they come in?
Not Tracy, because she's added as a guest.
Okay.
But if somebody joins with an email that's not on the guest list, then I have to approve them. I haven't seen it pop up though. I'm watching.
Okay, she just texted me. Anybody know any good jokes? I'm just kidding. We'll get there. So she'll be back in just a second. And if not, okay, so her internet just went out. So I'm going to do this instead, and hopefully Tracy will be joining us. So I'm going to present my screen to you, and if the same thing happens, we'll figure it out.
Oh, it looks like Ceci's might have gone out too.
Oh no.
They're both in the same area, I think.
Okay, so can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're going to start with the profile. I'll go back actually for a second just to refresh our memory about how to get in. So I am going to log in from the main page. It's saved my login credentials there. And then my dashboard will pop up and you'll see that I've got some schools listed in here. Where I want to go to start the profile is I want to click on an app. And then you'll see over here under Common Application, you've got profile, family, education, testing, etc. So today we're going to be talking about the profile and family. You can
I'm
look
back.
Oh, okay, great. So I
don't know what happened.
Okay, let me.
Do you want to continue or you want me to jump in?
Either way,
You're going to do. You want to go ahead and do the profile?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. And
okay.
Just, you let me know if I'm missing anything.
Okay, great.
So There is a tutorial here that you can watch, but we also have the video and we're going through it. So you probably won't need this, but you're of course welcome to do that. So you look at first, and the first bar is going to be personal information. Now, if I click on this arrow, what will-
Marjan,
yes.
I don't see your screen. Does everybody else see her screen? I don't know what's happening here.
I can see
Okay.
it.
Okay, then go ahead.
Okay, so if I click on the arrow, it'll just condense the information. So personal information, I'm going to open it back up. And so I'm going to put in my name. I've got that, my name. I'm not going to fill this out for you guys just because that would take up too much time. But you're going to put in information. You don't have to put a middle name, but you certainly can. And then if you have a nickname that you prefer, then that'll show up on your applications. And that's nice, particularly if you go by a name that's not a given name, that would be helpful to put that in there. If you've ever used other names, like if you had a different legal name, a different last name, you want to make sure you put that. They have sex. If you want to talk more about your gender identity, you can make a statement here saying, if you clicked one of these options, but you identify as something different, you can put that in there, and your date of birth. So then you can hit continue. And now it's going to show, you guys can see my address if you want to visit. And then if I have a different mailing address, I can just click on these as I go down, but I can also hit continue and it will take me to the next spot. Okay, so contact details. I'm going to put in my phone number. I can click whether it's a home or a mobile. And then if I have another phone number, it would allow me to add it. So I can either put no other phone, or I can put, like if I put that this is my mobile, then I could put home and then it'll allow me to put another phone number. So that's an option if you'd like to. And please, if I'm going too fast, or if this is all pretty straightforward, but if you have any questions or you want me to pause, please let me know. So I'm hitting continue. And I also apologize in advance, you guys. I am incredibly stuffy, not COVID stuffy, but allergy. So, forgive me if I'm sniffling. Demographics. Now, this is a bunch of information that's going to be optional. I want to go back for a second. I'm going to click on personal information. So you see here where it's the red asterisk, I have to put that. I don't have to put anything for my middle name if I don't want to. That's an option. Now, when I get to demographics, most of this is going to be optional. So you can put a religious preference if you want. If you're applying to a school that has a religious affiliation, then that, and you also identify as the same religion, like if it's a Christian school and you are Christian and you want to put that in, that might be helpful to you. But if it's, if you're applying to say NC State or UNC, they're not going to take religion into account. So don't even worry about it, but you can put it in if it's important to you. None of you, I'm assuming, are in the U.S. Armed Forces, but you can, if you're dependent of someone, meaning one of your parents or a guardian is a member of the Armed Forces, then you could click there. If you identify as Hispanic or Latino, then you could click yes here. And then you can also put a different ethnic identity. So American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian, or other Pacific Islander, white. Note, none of this is mandatory. You don't have to do anything if you don't want to. Keep in mind, though, it's not going to hurt your odds to identify as something other than white. So if you are white and you want to click that, that's fine. If you have multiple racial identities, you can click that as well. You could be a mix of different backgrounds and you click there, and that's totally fine.
Marjan,
Yes,
can we back up for just a second?
sure.
Will you click on yes to the Hispanic question?
Yes. Oh, great.
And
Yes.
then, yeah, I just wanted them to see that extra question that pops up when you
Yeah,
do that.
thank you for that. So yes, it's wanting to keep going back. So when you click on yes, what happens then is you can select one or more to indicate your family's place of origin. So if your family comes from Central America or Mexico or Cuba or wherever they may come from, you can click there. If you click other, then you're going to have the option of writing in, because obviously they don't list every Latin country or South American country. So you can put whatever is appropriate there. And then again, you don't have to fill out any of this, but at the end, it will require you to say, I've completed this section to my satisfaction. So if your satisfaction is to leave it all blank, that's perfectly fine, or to pick and choose which questions you want to answer, or if you want to answer all of them, those are your options. So you can kind of handle this section however you'd like, but then you do have to click this box in order for your application to be, successfully saved. Any questions about that? Okay, so I'm going to hit continue. And now it's going to ask me some other questions. Now, these are required. You can see the red asterisks here. They are required. You are not going to be more or less likely to be accepted based on these answers. This is purely information. So if you say that you were born somewhere outside the United States, this is not going to impact your ability to be accepted. So just keep that in mind. You put your country of birth, the city of your birth, the number of years you've lived in the United States. So if you were born in the United States, so let's say I do that. I say I was born in the United States, I put the city of my birth, then it's going to ask me the state or province. So if you put, North Carolina in many cases here, number of years you've lived in the United States, that's going to range anywhere from 1 to 17 or 18 or however old you are. So just put the number of years in. And then the number of years you lived outside the United States. So you guys can do that math to figure out if that's appropriate, what to put in there. Now, I want to make a note of something. I have been skipping things that you can see, like when I click on geography, when I don't put an answer, then it's going to not like that. It says, please complete this required question. I don't have to do it right away. I can answer it later. So I can hit continue and it's going to save my information, even though it allows me to go to the next section. So I move on to language here. And for most of us, it'll be 1, but for some people it might be 2 or 3. The more, the better. So if I put 1, then it's going to ask me to select my language. And it's going to put English first and then Spanish. And then it's going to, because those are the 2 most likely. And then it's going to go alphabetically through a whole bunch. So you just want to make sure that you click on the right thing. If I put 2, then it'll give me this option. So I'll put English here. And then let's say I put 2, then it's going to have me select another one. So this is kind of a silly question. It feels sort of redundant that if I put 1 and I select English, I can probably do all of these things, right? So if it's my first language, I can speak it, I can read it, I can write it, it's spoken in the home. If I put multiple languages, let's say I have 2 as my response. Oh, sorry, it always wants to do more. Okay, so for my next one, I'm going to put Spanish. And I could say that it's my first language, meaning that it was the language that my parents spoke to me first, and that I can speak it, and it's spoken at home. And maybe I can read it, but I'm not as comfortable writing it. So you can just select whatever feels appropriate for you. Maybe it's not my first language. Maybe I learned Spanish at a young age. I did a Spanish immersion program in elementary school. So I can speak, read, and write it, but it's not spoken in the home and it wasn't my first language. So whatever the case may be, just click on the appropriate ones. And you obviously can click on more than one. You could also just say, it was my first language. Or you could say, it's spoken in the home, which would probably also make it your first language, but not necessarily. Okay. Any questions about that one? Again, this is not going to positively or negatively impact your application. Just information that you want so they know how to communicate with you all. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm hearing a bunch of feedback. Does anybody hear me?
It sounds like maybe a lawnmower or something.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna go.
Good thought.
When you share your screen, you can't see anybody again, and so I just want to make sure. Okay, so I'm gonna continue. And now I get to citizenship. And this one is maybe a slightly thornier one because there's reasonably some confusion about how to approach this. So you need to be honest, obviously, and click on whichever one is appropriate to you. If you are a U.S. citizen or U.S. national, if you have dual citizenship, you're a permanent refuge or permanent resident. If you have refugee or asylum, or then if you are a non-U.S. citizen. So whichever one is appropriate, you want to click on. So if you click on this, then it's going to ask you for your social security number. And this is going to be helpful. You need to enter it for financial aid anyway, but this is how they're going to verify that. Now, if I want to go and try a different one, let's say I'm a dual citizen. It's going to ask for my social security number again because I've identified as an American citizen. And then it's going to list the citizenship that I have for another country. So normally USA would be at the top, but obviously that's not the case because I've said I'm a dual citizen. Now let's try this again. Let's say I select US permanent resident. Again, a social security number, and now they want to know where I am a citizen, which country I'm a citizen from. And here they're also asking for verification. So they would want some sort of image of my green card, and then there's some other naturalization documentation that they need there. I'm so sorry about my stuffiness. Okay, let's try this again. If you're a refugee or seeking asylum, you'll have a social, you'll list your citizenship. And then lastly, if you are a non-US citizen, they want to know where, and they want to know, do you hold a current US visa? Do Laura or Tracy want to weigh on this? You obviously need to be honest, but if there's any way to strategize here. So if you list your citizenship, where you were from, and then you also will put, I'm just going to put a random question. I'm going to say I'm from Canada because it's number one there. And then I say, I do not. If you intend to apply for a new or different US visa, please indicate that visa type. So they're just going to ask you what you're going to do in terms of establishing yourself as a resident. If you say yes, then they're going to ask what kind of visa you currently hold, and if you plan on doing another one, what that would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From my experience, this section does not really affect if you as much getting in or not, but it would affect their ability to get financial aid, like federal financial aid. In this specific group, we do not have any students with DACA.
Okay.
Or undocumented, but we do have a couple students who are permanent residents. However, there's really no difference with them and students who have citizenship. They're eligible for all the same things, and I think they're treated as if you have a green card, you're treated as a domestic student, not an international student.
That's great. And so that'll also, for public schools in particular, will affect your what type of tuition you have to pay as well. So that's great. I just wanted to cover the different options, and that way it's all clear. Okay.
And I was just going to add that this is just such an individual question. So if you have questions about this section, when we talk one-on-one in our one-off meetings, we can discuss this more in depth. And then it could be that you need to seek guidance from your upward bound advisors or your school counselors.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so hitting continue. This is the last section of the profile. And then the question here is, our member colleges want to make sure that application fees do not pose a barrier for any student who wishes to apply for admission. Do you feel that your financial aid circumstances might qualify you for a fee waiver? And the answer for all of you will be yes. Correct, Laura?
Yes, and
Okay.
Mike can check multiple boxes on that, and it's approved by their school counselor.
So if you look down, just if you look for the buzzword here, you can see upward bound, and the fact that we're doing an upward bound class right now would be that you would click there. But you might have additional ones. So maybe you received a waiver for the ACT or SAT, if you get free or reduced lunch, public assistance, whatever it may be. then you just sign it, put your name in, and then I would like to receive information from Strive for College. You can click on that and decide if you want to do that, and then you hit continue. So I'll do that
What is
here.
that? What is that Strive for College? The best I can figure out is it's some sort of mentoring program, but I've never heard.
I think that's correct. So I'm
That's
gonna,
right.
I'm
That's
just going
right.
back to the profile here for 1 second. Let's click on it. Just
Yeah, take a look at it. You're right though, Laura. It is just helpful for first gen, especially. There's lots of great information. Certainly, they should click on it and see what they would like to participate in.
oh, sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing here. So yeah, so Strive for College. It has a lot of different topics and information. This wildfire stuff is for folks out on the West Coast. So you can investigate this, but it's just a resource. It's not something that you have to do to submit your application. So that's the profile in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions about any portion of the profile? It's pretty straightforward. This is not the part where you're trying to gauge what's the best way to answer this. It's all just straightforward information. So I'm going to hit continue. Tracy, do you want to try to do this? I'm happy to go ahead.
I'm going to try. I'm sorry. I really am having some major issues here and I don't understand why, but I'm going to try. If it doesn't work, Marjan, please continue. Sorry.
Oh, sure. No problem. That's
okay.
No problem.
All right. Yeah, I mean, even before I click on it, when I click on screen share, I get a little button that pops up that says can't share your screen. Sorry, an error has occurred when screen sharing.
Okay.
So I don't know what's up with that. So sorry, Marjan.
Oh, it's not a problem at all.
Okay.
So you guys can see it again?
Yeah.
Okay,
You can do some commentary, Tracy.
Yes.
So again, there's this is an even faster section. So there's again a tutorial that you can do if you'd like. You still have these arrows to help with, you can collapse a section if you want, and then it'll take you to the next one. But we're going to start with household. And again, there's no assessment of anybody based on your answers here. It's just they want to have information so they can talk about how diverse their freshman class is once they've made selections. So don't feel like there's anything leading about these questions at all. So parents' marital status, so relative to each other. So they just want to know if your parents are married, separated, divorced, never married, widowed, civil union, domestic partners. Again, they're going to require that. With whom do you make a permanent home? You're going to enter your parents' names, or legal guardians or whoever it may be. So they just want to know who that is. And then they want to know if you have any children. You don't have to answer that, however. So that one is optional. Okay. So parent type 1, they are only giving you the option of mother, father, as opposed to say like a grandparent or someone else. But if you want to say that you either have your mother, father, or I have limited information about this person, so I'm going to put mother. I'm going to say yes, that my mother is living. And then they want to know information about her. So I would put in my mother's prefix, her given first name, her family name. If I wanted to put her maiden name, I could do that as well. And then where she is from. So here, birth country, they're just asking for country. I'll put United States of America. And then an email address for her. They want a phone number. And then they want to know if we live at the same address, basically. Then there are some more optional questions. You don't have to put her phone number in. You don't have to put her email in. But those are options. So if your parents are not very involved in your application process and you don't want to include their information, that's your choice as the applicant, but they can have this information here. Then I can put in what type of work my mom does. It is required that I put something, which is, I think, kind of strange, but okay. So they're going to put whatever that may be. My mother is not an optometrist, but I'm going to say she is, just for fun. Okay. And then they want to know if she's currently employed. and her education level. So it's not possible to be an optometrist and say she only had some high school, but let's put that in there just to make things interesting. Obviously, if she were an optometrist, then I would be putting, that she had graduated from graduate school, I think is what it would have me do.
Can we stop here for a second, Marjan?
Yeah.
So one thing that students were always confused about when I worked as a counselor in the high school is sometimes it wasn't clear whether the parent had like the level of education.
Sure.
So my suggestion is that you don't inflate this information. So what I mean by that is if your mom went to community college, or maybe she was like me and went to college initially out of high school, but then dropped out, that kind of thing, don't feel the need to impress the admissions officers in this way by saying that your mom finished college, or, just make sure you're super accurate here. So just because she went to college, if she didn't actually finish with a degree, then you wouldn't put that in here. And I think there is, can you click on that button
Yeah,
again,
sure.
Marjan? I think there's some college, right?
Yes, there's graduated from high school, secondary school, some trade or community college.
Yeah, okay.
Graduated from it, some college, university.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so just make sure you're accurate. Like if they graduated from a technical school or a 2-year, like a community college, make sure you put that, and not that it's a 4-year college degree.
And the same note, again, this is just fact finding. This isn't going to, they're not looking for you to try to impress them or, go the other way with that. If anything, being first generation is going to offer more opportunities to you than if you have some, if your parents got higher degrees. But again, whatever is true for you is how you should respond. So if you have some trade or community college, then it might ask, okay, so how many institutions did you attend? So in the case of my mom, again, not an optometrist, I took that away, but my mom did get a degree, but she went to several schools because they moved around a lot. And so I would put graduate from college or universities, but I mean, I might have to put like a whole bunch of schools. Or if it was just one, then I would just put one, and then I can put the school that she graduated from. So number of degrees your parents have, that's where you would put that in as well. But again, yes, don't try to overly impress. Just put whatever is accurate. So after I've completed my first parent, then it's going to ask for the second one. So if I have a second parent that I'm going to report on in my application, in this case, I might put mother or father. I have limited information about this parent. Let's click on that and see what happens. It doesn't ask me for anything else. It's going to just allow me to kind of go from there. Or I do not have another parent to list, then I'm obviously not going to continue with filling in information about that person. So you fill out parent 2 just the same like you do parent 1. You give their information, their name, where they're from, any work information, and education level. And then you hit continue. And here you can put in information about your siblings. So let's say you have one sibling. What it's going to ask you for is your sibling's name, their age, and if it's a brother or sister. So I have one brother. I won't put his age. He'd be mad at me if I did that. And then I say his education level, and I put that in. Now, if you have a younger sibling, then you might be putting, some grade or primary school, or maybe if they're too young to be in school, if you have a sibling who's in preschool, then you would just put none. If you have, and now obviously that'll be verified by their age. If you have multiple siblings, you're just going to repeat this process. Now, let's say I have a sibling who is currently in college. Let me say that. So I'm going to say I have a brother who has some trade school or community college, or actually I'm going to say has some college or university. If you have a sibling who's currently in college. Now it's going to ask me, what are they pursuing. So if you have a sibling who is a new college student, so they recently graduated from high school and now they're getting a degree, that would be a bachelor's. And then they're going to ask me when they started school, where they go, if they have graduated, all that kind of information. And they'll just have you repeat this for however many siblings you have. Does anybody have any questions about the family section?
Yes, I do. So my brother, he went to Wilkes and now he's in Wingate. So what would I put for him?
That's good. So you would, because he's currently, tell me if you guys disagree with this, Laura or Tracy, but I would say he has some college, university, and then you could say the degree earned or expected would again be bachelor's because he's pursuing that, even though he has an associate's. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's what I would put.
Because if you were to put only that he had gone to Wilkes and then you say that he earned an associate's, then that suggests that that's where his education ended. And what you're suggesting is, in fact, that he is pursuing a higher degree.
I
Okay.
agree. And Cecilia, where that is super important is actually on FAFSA, because it's going to affect how much money you get. And not that they're going to tie it to this application, but you just want to be consistent in what you put in. So if you say that he went to Wilkes and finished that associate's degree, and that's what it looks like here, then it's going to look like when you say on FAFSA that you have a brother in college, it's just not going to match. So you want to make sure everything's accurate and the same. So to be accurate, he is still pursuing a bachelor's degree and is currently in college, and that's going to be helpful for you financially.
Okay.
And also, things change, right? So let's say right now you are completing your application and your brother or sister is is at Wilkes. And then at the end of the semester, they graduate and they start taking 4-year college credit at App. So, or, wherever it may be. So by the time you're applying, that might have changed, but nobody's going to, this is not going to impact your application. So even though this information might change in the next few months, if your sibling is working right now and then starts school in January, that's okay. Just answer how it's accurate at this moment.
Okay. Also, it says here for college start date and college end date. Do I have to put that in, or can I just leave that blank?
Well, it's not required. And it's also see, all of this, if it doesn't have the asterisks, you don't have to put it.
Okay.
So if you know the information, add it. Same thing with the college. You should be able to probably verify where your sibling's going to school, but if you can't for some reason, it's okay. They just kind of want to know the education level of your family, broadly speaking.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Anybody else? As I sniffle. Okay, I'm going to hit continue just so we can see where this takes us. And it's going to bring me down back on the left side, again, under Common App. You'll see Profile Family. It's going to take me to the next section, which we're not going to go into today. But if I wanted to make sure how things are going, I can go back to my profile and check, and everything that I've entered is saved. Now, I haven't put much in here, but whatever I did put in is saved. You'll note at the bottom of the profile, there's only one check because it's the only section I filled out completely. If you want to make sure that if you think that you filled out a section in its entirety and there's no check, then that means that you're missing something that's required. So just make sure that's a way to kind of help keep you on track to make sure that you've got everything that you need.
Marjan, can I add on to that?
Sure.
Will you go back up so that
Uh-huh.
we can see the left-hand side where it lists
Yes.
all the different sections? Thank you. And then here also, once you complete the profile, there will be a green check beside that as well.
Sure.
And for each section. So it's really easy to see what you still need to work on when you open this up. Once you start completing sections, you'll see that testing, for instance, may not have a green check, and you'll know that something's missing in that section. So it's a great way to just glance and see what you still need to work on.
Great. And one more thing, we didn't talk about preview, but I'm going to click on that just so we can kind of check it out. This is going to give me an overview of the information that I have included. There's probably no need for you to print it, but it's going to show you what you included. It's not allowing me to go down for some reason, but you can just kind of see what, if you were to print it for some reason, it will show you what you have completed. If you've filled out the whole thing, it'll put everything in there. Okay. Any other questions about the profile or family section or anything we talked about last week?
So quiet.
Yeah.
So quiet.
I tried looking up ETSU and I couldn't find it. Is it not on there?
Yeah, the ETSU doesn't use Common App. They have something called GoldLink. And so we can help you with that one.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good point. So sometimes, I think we talked about this last time, but just to clarify, if you put in a school based on, like if you put in ETSU, that in this case, they're not on the Common App, but you might find, oh gosh, it's not in the system that way. I have to actually put in East Tennessee State University. And you want to make sure that you have it correct. It'll probably pop up no matter what, but like, let's say you called it Eastern Tennessee, you know, it can lead to some confusion. That's happened before, like in North Carolina, it's Western Carolina, but it's East Carolina University, you know, so just play around with it before you give up and assume that it's not in the system. You could always just Google as well, like, does ETSU use the Common App? And it'll say,
Or just ETSU application. And it'll take you right to their homepage and it will be obvious how you apply.
right. And most schools, they might not say we don't use the Common App, but if they do use the Common App, they will say you can apply through the Common App.
Yeah, almost,
Yeah,
sorry.
no. I'm just talking. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, almost every college, if you just Google the college name and the word application, almost every college will have somewhere on their website just a basic thing about how to apply. And they're like, the first question is going to be, are you a transfer student or are you a first year student, an incoming freshman? And all of you will be incoming freshmen. So you just click on that one and then it'll walk you step by step. Open a Common App account, or here's our, what was it called, Laura, for ETSU?
GoldLink, yeah,
GoldLink.
something like that. And also, we will strongly encourage all of you to do an application for your local community college as a backup plan. And if you are looking for those on the Common App, they're not there. All of the community colleges in North Carolina use CFNC for their Common App. I mean, for their application. So, and we'll help you with that too. It just won't be on Common App.
And just so you know, a community college application is going to be much easier.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to have as many names.
The thing that takes the most time is that NC residency.
Yes.
Thing.
Yes. That the RDS for sure. And everybody does have to complete that. Maybe, do they know about it? Do you guys cover that?
Oh yeah. Usually
Okay.
we do it with them one-on-one, but it'll be kind of like a pre-FAFSA. When you get to that point, it will ask for your RCN. Some of you might have already done it, but it will ask a lot of really nosy questions like your parents' social security number, if they have it, their birthdays. It'll even ask like where their driver's license is, like if they have any vehicles registered. And it does seem very nosy, but it's a lot of the same info they'll ask for on the FAFSA, and it's a way to figure out if you are a resident of North Carolina, because it used to be that each college decided your residency on their own. So if you had any sort of like a slightly weird living situation, like say you lived for your whole life with your grandma in Sparta up in Allegheny County, but your biological mom lives over the border in Virginia, and your grandma doesn't like officially have custody, then you would often be counted as an out-of-state student, and as a Virginia resident. And so with this, it kind of lets you explain that, and then you get this number, and you're the same in-state student at all the universities in North Carolina. So it's a little bit of a pain, but it's, believe it or not, better than it used to be.
And the reason that's important, and you guys may already know this, but the reason the residency is important is because it gives you in-state tuition for North Carolina colleges. So it's not really checking to make sure, nothing about being a resident or a citizen of the country. It's just making sure you live in North Carolina and that you can get that in-state tuition price.
Well, and also on that note, North Carolina has some very selective schools like Chapel Hill and NC State are very difficult to get in, even in state, but super hard to get in out of state. So if the situation that Laura described, like if you somehow became counted, you're really a good shot to get into state, let's say, and then they determine that you live in Virginia, then all of a sudden your chances have declined. This is not going to be the case for you guys, but I'm just explaining that applying in state to your state institutions improves your odds of getting in as well.
That's a great
Now,
point.
if you want to go to UVA in Virginia, also a very difficult school to get admitted to, if you are a North Carolina resident, it's harder to get in than if you're in Virginia. So it's the states want to protect their own residents is the point. Make it easier for them.
And that I would say, and Laura, you talked about ETSU. I don't remember on the list. Do a lot of people apply to ETSU?
Yes, actually, ETSU is a pretty popular school amongst this crowd because most of them are in border counties, and so they get in-state tuition, which is very generous by ETSU. And I believe that there might be like one county that's not a border county or that doesn't have an arrangement, but that is a popular choice.
Yeah, that's just what I wanted to point out, because when we talk of in-state and out-of-state, you might look at ETSU and say, oh, well, I can't afford that. It's in Tennessee. But like Laura said, most of you live in the border counties and there's a reciprocal agreement. So you would be considered in-state tuition for ETSU if you're in one of those border counties. And I'm not sure either. Allegheny may not be. I agree. There's one.
Yeah, I believe
sort of
Allegheny
nearby.
is not, but they might have some sort of agreement. I don't know. If you're
Okay.
interested in ETSU, when we work on your application together, we'll just make sure that that's, we'll make sure that all that's sorted out for you.
Right.
And as you guys are finalizing your list of schools, if you're still on the fence thinking of a couple, as long as you have some in-state options to fall back on, so like not just Chapel Hill, but you have some of the more moderately selective schools to consider, or you have a community college on your list, as long as you have those, I would say don't worry too much about the finances as you're applying, because particularly if you're applying out of state or to a private school, there's a million different factors that will impact what kind of tuition breaks you get or scholarships. So you don't want to only apply out of state into private schools. That would be, especially if they're super selective, because that's a long shot for anybody. But if you have some safety net, then consider schools that would be a really great fit for you. And then the financial stuff will get figured out in the next stage. It's not the only thing to consider. Obviously, you have to consider it. Like, how am I going to pay for school? But don't allow it to be the only thing that determines where you apply. I think that Tracy and Laura and I could pontificate on admissions with you guys forever. But if you don't have any questions, I guess we could probably let you go a little early too.
Yeah, anything at all, guys, before we finish up? All right, just a quick reminder, please, please, please let us know about your schedules so we can get those meetings scheduled starting tomorrow. We each have a lot of you to cover through before our next meeting next Wednesday, so.
Wait, I got a question.
Yeah, go
Whenever you're
ahead,
done.
Celeste. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Celeste.
So I'm planning to move out of state.
Okay.
So how am I gonna figure out college in that the state I'm going to move to?
Do you know when, like what your timeline is? And this is probably a one-off question, Celeste. I don't know if I have you or if Marjan has you. Do you know?
I'm not
Marjan?
sure. I don't remember off my head.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, let's talk about that in our individual meeting, because it'll depend on the time frame and where you're moving, and all of those things will come into play. So that's just an individual question that we can talk about with you one-on-one. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Anything else for the larger group?
Just when you get your, because you guys will have told us when you're available, we will try to accommodate that schedule as best we can. Please reply to the link to attend that meeting. So if you get an invitation to meet with Tracy or me tomorrow at 10 a.m. because you said you were available, either reply yes, you'll be there, and then be there, or let us know that, oh, actually, I made a mistake, I'm not available then, and then we can reschedule.
Or you may already have made plans because we haven't scheduled a meeting for
Sure.
tomorrow. And that's okay. We understand that. So, but please just, the biggest part is the communication so that we know, like Marjan said, we're not sitting on that phone call waiting on you, because if we don't hear back one way or the other, we're like, well, maybe they're planning on coming. And then that's our time, and it could be another student that could be filled into that time. So just try to communicate as much as possible. It's okay if the answer is no, but that gives us a starting point to go from.
Yeah.
Okay, remember everybody, practice sharing your screen so that we can, and make sure you have your Common App set up, and so that we can actually use this time the best way possible. It's going to be short and sweet. 30 minutes is not a lot of time, but we want to be able to look at your Common App and make sure that you're on the right track.
Well, thank you guys. Have a good week. Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.